Why do we sometimes lie to ourselves without even realizing it? Why do we push away uncomfortable thoughts or feelings, only to have them resurface later? The answer lies in the hidden world of defense mechanisms, a concept pioneered by Anna Freud. These unconscious strategies shape how we think, feel, and behave, often without us even knowing. In this video, we'll explore Anna Freud's groundbreaking work on ego psychology and uncover how these mechanisms influence our lives. Ready to dive into the hidden workings of your mind? Let's begin. Anna Freud, the daughter of Sigmund Freud, was a trailblazer in the field of psychoanalysis. While her father is famous for his work on the id and the unconscious mind, Anna shifted the focus to the ego, the part of our psyche that mediates between our primal desires, the demands of reality, and our moral compass. She identified a set of unconscious tools the ego uses to protect us from emotional pain, anxiety, and inner conflict. These tools are called defense mechanisms. Today we'll dive into Anna Freud's hidden insights about these defense mechanisms. We'll explore how they shape our behavior, often without us even realizing it, and how they can both help and hinder us. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand how these mechanisms work, but also how to recognize them in your own life. Let's get started. So what exactly are defense mechanisms? In simple terms, they're unconscious strategies the ego uses to protect us from anxiety, guilt, or other uncomfortable emotions. Think of them as psychological shields. When we're faced with internal conflicts like a clash between our desires and our morals or external stressors, like a tough day at work, our ego steps in to defend us. It uses these mechanisms to keep us emotionally balanced, even if it means distorting reality or hiding the truth from ourselves. To put it another way, defense mechanisms are like your mind's immune system. Just as your body fights off germs to keep you healthy, your mind uses defense mechanisms to protect you from emotional pain. They kick in automatically, often without you even realizing it. But here's the catch. While they can be helpful in the short term, overusing them can do more harm than good. They can keep us stuck in unhealthy patterns and prevent us from facing the root causes of our struggles. Now that we know what defense mechanisms are, let's dive into some of the most common ones. These are the tools your ego uses to protect you, and understanding them can help you recognize when they're at work in your own life. First up is repression. This is when the ego pushes painful or threatening thoughts, memories, or feelings into the unconscious mind. It's like sweeping dust under the rug. You don't see it, but it's still there. For example, someone who experienced childhood trauma might not remember the event at all. The memory is buried deep in their unconscious, but it can still influence their behavior and emotions. Next is projection. This is when we attribute our own unacceptable feelings or desires to someone else. It's like holding up a mirror but pointing it at another person. For instance, if you're angry at a friend but don't want to admit it, you might convince yourself they're angry at you instead. It's a way of avoiding responsibility for your own emotions. Then there's rationalization. This is when we justify our behavior with logical-sounding excuses. It's like creating a story to make ourselves feel better about our actions. For example, if you fail a test, you might blame the teacher instead of admitting you didn't study enough. It's a way of protecting your ego from feelings of failure or guilt. Finally, let's talk about sublimation. This is one of the healthier defense mechanisms. It's when we channel unacceptable impulses into socially acceptable actions. For example, someone with aggressive tendencies might take up a sport like boxing. Instead of acting out their aggression in harmful ways, they redirect it into something productive and even admirable. These are just a few examples of defense mechanisms, but there are many more. The key takeaway is that they all serve a purpose, to protect us from emotional pain. But as we'll see, they can also hold us back if we rely on them too heavily. Now that we've explored some key defense mechanisms, let's talk about the role of the ego. In Freudian psychology, the ego is like a mediator. It sits at the center of a constant tug-of-war between three forces: the id, the superego, and reality. The id is our primal, instinctual side. It wants what it wants, and it wants it now. The superego is our moral compass. It's the voice in our head that tells us what we should do. And then there's reality, the external world with all its rules and limitations. The ego's job is to balance these competing demands. It's like a skilled negotiator trying to keep the peace. Defense mechanisms are the tools it uses to do this. They help the ego manage anxiety, guilt, and conflict by either distorting reality or redirecting our emotions. For example, repression helps us avoid painful memories, while sublimation helps us channel our impulses into something productive. But here's the catch. While defense mechanisms can be helpful in the short term, overusing them can distort reality and prevent personal growth. If you're constantly rationalizing your mistakes or projecting your feelings onto others, you're not addressing the root cause of your struggles. You're just putting a bandage on a wound that needs proper healing. This is where self-awareness comes in. The first step to overcoming unhealthy defense mechanisms is recognizing them. By becoming aware of how your ego protects you, you can start to address the underlying issues. You can ask yourself, why am I avoiding this feeling? What am I really afraid of? What's the truth I'm not facing? This kind of introspection can be uncomfortable, but it's essential for growth. Remember, the ego isn't the enemy, it's just doing its job. But by understanding its role and the tools it uses, you can take control of your own narrative. You can move from simply coping to truly thriving. Anna Freud's work on defense mechanisms reveals a fascinating truth about how our minds protect us from emotional pain, often without us even realizing it. These unconscious strategies like repression, projection, and rationalization act as psychological shields, helping us cope with anxiety, guilt, and inner conflict. But while they can be helpful in the short term, overusing them can keep us stuck in unhealthy patterns and prevent us from facing the root causes of our struggles. The key to breaking free from these patterns is self-awareness. By recognizing when and how we use defense mechanisms, we can start to understand their purpose and work toward healthier ways of coping. It's not about eliminating them entirely, they're a natural part of being human, but about using them in a way that serves us rather than holds us back. So here's a question for you. Which defense mechanisms do you see in your own life? Are they helping you or are they keeping you from growing? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from Anna Freud's insights. Let's spread the knowledge and help others understand the hidden workings of their minds. Don't forget to subscribe to Intuitra for more deep dives into psychology, philosophy, and self-discovery. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and remember, understanding your mind is the first step to mastering it. See you next time!